Hey guys, it's me, Yaya Diamond. What's up, peoples? How you doing? Today we're going to be talking to an author. Yes, I love authors, and And here is his Instagram right here. It's free will is an illusion, and that's exactly what we're going to be talking about. Is free will an illusion? Is it something that we just conjured up in our minds? You're not free. You can't be. Well, are you? Well, we're going to talk about that. I mean, because I don't know. I mean, at this moment in time, I'm thinking maybe I'm just like this little puppet or a pawn or something. But my guest, he is going to definitely talk about that today. And I am just so very excited to have him on the show. His book is right here, and I'm going to put this on the screen. It is The Celestine Prophecy Fulfilled. And I hope I said that right. But that is Nick Vale or Nick Vale. We can go both ways. And I want to thank you guys. And I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you, Nick, for joining us. Did I say that right? Is it Vale or Vale?
Vale.
That
Vale.
Vale.
And we're going to be exploring the illusion of free will.
Oh my gosh. Well, Vale sounds good too, because in some languages it's Vale. So tell me, let's go back a little bit. Tell me about yourself, and then tell me when things started to change for you and how you kind of started to discover that free will is an illusion.
So nothing in my life ever worked out. I never really, almost everything I wanted didn't seem to happen. And my parents always told me, if you do this and you'll get that. And it never worked out for me. And I kept a very detailed journal. And I was always wondering, what's going on. And then I kind of figured out that I didn't believe in free will. So I spoke to a lot of friends, ministers, pastors, family, and they all said, no, you're crazy. There is free will. So I felt crazier and crazier. And then one night I guess I woke up in the middle of the night. I was having a dream, and I went on. Back then it was called Meet. I don't even still just Meetup.com, and I plugged in Meetup.com. Okay, it was just in 2011, and I was like really freaking out over this, feeling crazy because I had a journal my whole life, and I could see that everything was cause and effect. Mm-hmm. But my parents, I would say to them, "Is there free will?" And they said, "Of course there is." So anyway, I went on Meetup.com. I put in illusion of free will. And lo and behold, there was a meetup support group for it in Manhattan. And I went into the meetup group with a guy who ran it named George Ortega, and with about 20 other people. And we became a little society. And George and I ended up doing a TV show in New York called Free Will ? And we also did it in White Plains. It was called Exploring the Illusion of Free Will in White Plains. And we did that for 4 or 5 years. And then suddenly Sam Harris wrote a book. Robert Sapolsky wrote a book. I started reading what Einstein thought, what Stephen Hawking, and all these people don't believe in free will, but it's all underground. It's all grassroots. If you go on YouTube and put in "is free will an illusion," or Google it, the illusion of free will, it's all over the place. It's just not on the mainstream, and it's actually obviously in academia and philosophy class, and they talk about it in religion, but it's never been on CNN or any normal. I mean, this is as mainstream as we're getting, but I want you to keep an open mind because most people yell at me and say, of course they have free will. So I really appreciate you taking the time to explore the illusion of free will with me and investigate it. Definitely. Can you see this sweatshirt, by the way? I can't really tell.
I can. Exploring the illusion of free will. I got it. I like that.
To answer your question, one night, for some reason, I just put in on Meetup.com, is there free will? And there was a meetup group, a support group in Manhattan for people who think that free will is an illusion. So that's how I got started with it.
Okay, so wait. Okay, let's go back. What is the illusion? Okay, so let me be a little bit specific because that's really a broad question. Like, what is the illusion?
That's a good question.
But what I'm thinking of is, okay, is it predestined, set? There is nothing you can do to change it. Everybody's a puppet. We're walking around. Or are there different paths for different choices? So there is a illusion of free will, but yet there's still a path that you've chosen that is really already made up for you, depending on your decisions.
All right. So number one, the illusion of free will is there's only 2 ways you can do something: because you want to do it or because you're forced to do it. Okay. So if you're being forced to do it, obviously that's not free will. So we're going to talk the entire time about number one, because you want to do it. But the thing is, you don't get to choose what you want to do in the first place. Because if that were true, who would commit a crime? Who would be depressed? If you could only choose, what you wanted to do, you would only be moral and a perfect angel. So yes, you do, Yaya. You owe. Okay, if I tied you up and left you in a chair, obviously, and brought you somewhere, that's not free will. Forcing you to do something, or coercion, and making you, putting a gun to your head and telling you I'm going to give you tremendous harm if you don't do something. That's we're not going to discuss that, because nobody. Okay, so we're only going to discuss people who tell me they do what they want to do. Okay,
Mm.
like but I don't get to choose what my desires are in the first place. I don't choose what my preferences are in the first place, because if you could, who amongst us would do something evil, commit a crime, do something immoral? So you clearly are always doing what you want, but I keep saying you don't get to choose what you want in the first place. Does that make
Mm-hmm.
sense? That's the illusion,
It's yeah, yeah.
because
That
no
okay.
one gets that part. You're going to say I want to be, but you didn't choose. I have a desire to talk to you today, but I didn't choose my thought before my thought. It just comes from background causes from which I'm not consciously aware of or in control of.
Correct.
Because if we did, nobody would be committed. No one would be depressed. They would all choose only happy thoughts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. It's so funny, and I'm gonna go there, and a lot of people don't talk about this. I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it. If I had the choice,
Free
from
choice. Free
before
choice.
I
Say
came,
free choice. Say
right? If
free
I had
choice, because you
free
do have
choice
choices.
or free will,
Free.
if I had a free will or a free choice, um, I would not have chosen to come to this world being black.
Okay. I'm
It's
actually the
it's
defender
difficult.
because
It's a
Republicans,
difficult thing.
everyone's keeping you guys down with they're just using poverty dismissal and institutional racism. The whole game is the free will game. They're saying you have free will, and it's your
Mm-hmm.
fault that you or your race or whatever is not as success. Whatever race. It's all about. I'm the only person to come out and defend the lazy and the poor because there's no free will. So that's why everybody should be given the same amount of money. Uh, in this futuristic society, when everyone understands there's no free will, there should be a universal basic income, probably by age. And when robots come around, I guess the disgusting and bad jobs can be done by robots, and then everybody can kind of do what they want as a hobby, and everybody should be paid exactly the same. And I just
Mm-hmm.
want to say one thing. What's his name? Bernie Sanders and Andrew Yang and many other politicians all tell everybody that gargantuan income inequality is immoral. They've said that when they're defending, especially the minorities, but they never say why it's immoral. And why it's
Mm.
immoral is because there's no free will. It's all
Yeah,
luck. It's all fate. It's not your fault that you can't make it. You can
yeah,
do everything. So that you're calling that institutional racism, it's because they're playing the free will game with you. They're saying even if you were born without bootstraps, you should be able to pick yourself up by your boots and your straps, even if you don't have a father in the home and you were born poor, you need to pick yourself up and use your free will and make good choices. But if there's no free will, it's all fate and it's all luck. And that's where the universal basic income should come in. And that's exactly why I'm glad. I didn't know you were, it doesn't matter. My best friends were, it,
it
that's
doesn't matter
exactly,
really. It doesn't.
yeah, but they're using it to keep you down. The politicians
Yeah,
are using indirect violence on the poor by saying you have free will,
yeah.
when we
But it's
all
not
know
just
it's luck.
me either. It's
No,
not
it's
just like
everybody they
it's
keep
not just
down.
me either.
Everybody.
So I have plenty of my friends that are white, but they live in trailer parks, and they have that trailer park thing that keeps them down. You have Puerto Ricans. They are
Right.
US citizens, but yet they're still treated like as if they're
Okay.
aliens in this
I didn't
country.
mean to bring the
You know,
race. I'm saying it
but
justifies poverty. Free
yeah,
will.
no, I'm saying I'm not saying
Fix.
race.
No. Okay.
I'm saying poverty in
Economic
itself.
class. Economic class.
Exactly. Yes, I'm
But you
talking
guys
about.
need to focus on the free will issue, because they're going to
Hmm.
blame you, and they make it like the Bible said this and God said that and it's unchallengeable, and how dare you say there's no free will. You know, God is like an unchallengeable assumption. Once you throw God in there, it's like, oh well, the minister said there's free will. It's all bull. I don't know. I guess I can. It's all bullshit. There's no free will. It's keeping the poor down, and it's not. I'm the defender of the little people and the champion of the poor, I guess, and the defender of the people getting bullied by this. And
Hmm.
they all try to act smarter than you by saying big fancy words. There's no, the reason why you don't understand what they're saying is because you didn't study philosophy, and you don't, that proves there's no free will. If you had free will, you would know what these big fancy words mean. So then you guys think, oh, they're smarter. And of course, and what they're doing is they're practicing indirect violence on you. They're making you feel bad if you can't succeed. They're making you feel like a failure if you're, and it's not true. It's just cause and effect. And it wasn't in your dominoes to be successful. It's not your fault. Everybody tries as hard as they can. They can't get anywhere because there's no free will. That's what it is. It's the game they're playing.
Wow.
And I've
Wow.
cracked the code for the economically challenged. I've cracked the code. They're going to lie to you and say, use your free will. That's why this issue never seems to come out, because as Upton St. Clair said, and you can Google this, Upton St. Clair said that, what did he say? That suddenly, it is very difficult. I almost forgot. See, if I had free will, that wouldn't have happened. It is very difficult. It is very difficult to get a man to understand something when his salary depends on him not understanding it. Upton St. Clair, you can Google. He was a famous writer in like the early 1900s. He said it is very difficult. You can everyone to Google Upton. It is very difficult to get a man to understand something when his high salary depends upon him not understanding it. So the people who run the country and are keeping everyone down will never admit there's no free will, because they want to take credit for all their accomplishments. And they don't want to be robbed of their high salaries and 5-star luxury hotel lifestyles.
Wow.
Because if Deepak Chopra were to come out and say, it's all luck, there's no free will, then everyone's going to say, well, why are you getting paid more than me? So he's not going to say that. It's very rare that someone like me who has some money comes out and says there's no free will. There's Sam Harris, who also is another guy who says there's no, and I don't know, I guess I can say his mother was Susan Harris. She did the Golden Girl. She was a very big, he comes from a lot of money, Sam Harris. And he meditated for years, and then he went around the world, and he meditated, and he has a PhD in philosophy and Stanford and UCLA. And he came out and wrote a book saying there's no free will. It's called Free Will by Sam Harris. The problem is it's in the philosophy section, and nobody likes to go in the philosophy section. So I'm trying to make it like a current events topic or a self-help topic. Because I don't know if you've ever noticed, but if you go to a bookstore and go to the philosophy section, nobody's there. So it's getting lost. It's getting lost in boring philosophy when it's really a current events, and it's a self-help issue.
My goodness. What practical steps can individuals take to embrace this awakening, though? I mean, what is it that we can do?
Okay.
Or is there anything we can do?
Yes, because if you say to yourself, well, Nick said there's no free will, I'm not going to bother to get out of bed. There's nothing I can do. I'm going to stay in bed all day. I'm going to play video games, smoke pot, be lazy. Then there's no free will, but you're going to have the consequences of that no free will, and you're going to lose your job, be homeless, be unkept, and be miserable. So you can take the fact there's no free will to put the right steps into becoming successful. Use cause and effect to your advantage. You can just as easily say, well, Nick said there's no free will, I might as well stay in bed all day, but you can just as easily say there's no free will. I need to do cause and effect in a positive way. So I need to shave and shower. These are all.
Oh, please take a shower. Oh, please. Yeah. Yes, take a shower.
But you end up getting what you reap what you sow. So it's cause and effect and dominoes. So you got to use this in your favor and really put in the effort. Like you're not going to win the lottery unless you buy a lottery ticket. You're not going to ace an exam unless you study for it. It's all cause and effect. So you got to, really put it logically together. You got to try to do things.
Yeah.
You can't just use it as an excuse and say, I'm not going to try.
Right.
You have to,
So the question that I asked in the beginning was, if you had the option of 3 different ways to do what you want to do, right? What you want to do. You're not forced to do it, but what you want to do. So you can say, I'm not going to get up out of bed. I'm just going to lay here and I'm going to play my video games all day, and I'm not going to take a shower. I'm not going to brush my teeth. I'm not going to do it. There are causes and effects to that road. If you
consequences.
Right. So consequences. So if you take the middle road, I'm just going to keep doing what I've been doing, even though I don't like it, but I'm going to do it because I need to make money. There's a cause and effect to that. And then there's the one where you go after your dreams and your goals or whatever you want to do in life, you go that route. So there are different choices, but the choices themselves has a cause and effect that's going to roll out the same way.
You're always going to make the choice that you feel is best for you to do at the time. So some people are afraid of being successful and afraid of making a lot of money for them. So you're still going to do whatever you can, all things considered, with your consciousness, with your nature and nurture, with how you were raised. So not everybody can be a success because they don't have the steps before them prior to make those steps to be a CEO of a company. They're going to say, well, if you work hard and try really hard and get into the right college, but some people just aren't. First of all, you're not in control of how smart you are, of how intelligent you are. So right off the bat, you can't control your consciousness and what your brain state is. So you're saying do the greater things, but it may not be available to you. You're taking the best option you can to seek out the most overall life satisfaction for you. So some people, it might be a low stress job where they don't want to get paid a lot. That's the best for them. It's different for everybody.
Wow. Wow.
It's still cause and effect.
Definitely. So okay. So given the radical nature of this
But
insight, right?
what I don't like about what I just want to say, what I don't like about free will is the religious people taking what I call the moral superiority thrill ride, because they'll look at someone like I don't want to offend but a criminal who commits a crime, no matter how heinous, if you look at it's not their fault, and you look at the prior conditions they had to. So the moral superiority thrill ride is someone saying, well, if I were that guy, I wouldn't have done that. He deserves to go to hell for the rest of jail for 100 years, the death penalty, and hell for, they take the moral superiority thrill ride. They're saying, if I were he, I wouldn't have done that, and I'm superior, and I'm going to heaven, and you're going to hell. So that's such a horrible thing to put your mind in someone else's life, because if I were born Yahya Diamond, I would be you. And if you were born Nick Vale, you would be me, and you would have written this book. And it would have been easy for you to write this book because it's just meant for me. So if I were Hitler, I would have been Hitler. If I were Mother Teresa, I would have been Mother Teresa. If I were if you can't put your mind in someone else's life and say, well, if I were he, I wouldn't have done that. It's such a horrible thing. It's such a mistake. It's so disgusting. It's indirect violence to say, well, he's going to hell because I would have. You're putting your mind in his or her life, and it's very wrong, and it's terrible, and it needs to stop, and it needs to stop right now.
That
Thanks to you.
And I never thought about that. I never really did that. I never said if I were that person, I would, because I don't want to be that person. I don't want to know what it feels like to want to or have to do that or be prompted to do that or choose to do. I don't want to be that person. In this lifetime.
Yeah, but when you look at a criminal, do you say, well, if I were her, I wouldn't have done that? But you're not her. If you were her, you would have done it, right? Or him?
Because I would have been there.
Here's the kicker: that you would have their obviously genetics, physical being. You would have their nature and nurture. But what always gets left out is you wouldn't have their soul or spirit. They have their soul or spirit, and no one gets to freely, consciously choose what soul or spirit. So I can't take credit for the fact that I don't have the soul or spirit of a psychopath. I can't. You don't get to consciously choose, because they always say, well, Nick, you're only talking about the material world. They have a soul or spirit, and but you wouldn't. The criminal has their soul or spirit. They don't have Yahya's soul or spirit, and they didn't get to freely, consciously choose when they were born what their soul or spirit is. So that's another thing.
Yeah, no, I never said that, and I won't. And I tell people, I don't want to know. I don't want to know what it feels like. I don't want to know. I'm not judging nobody.
Yeah, but I'm sure you've told someone, well, that person's going to rot in hell forever.
No.
Good for you.
Never said that, because that is not that's not my role. I am not the judge nor the jury. If I was a juror and they were in the trial,
how can there be a juror? How can there be a judgment day without free will? There's no heaven or hell. This is ridiculous.
Well, there you go. I literally I'm talking about like the judicial system. If I was a jury or a judge,
that's different.
Okay, that's different, right? It'll still be me trying to.
No, we got to keep. I don't want people to. That's a good. We got to keep society safe. You can't go in front of a judge and say, I listened to Yahya, Nick, and there's no free will. And no, the judge's going to say, I also don't have free will, and I have no choice but to put you away because I need to deter others. And my job, and I have no choice. I agree there's no free will, but I have no choice but to keep society safe. And you out there, man, Mr. out there, are going to make society unsafe. So I have no choice but to put you away. So that doesn't work.
No,
that's pragmatic blame. That's superficial. but I'm talking about the deep, true level of
Right.
reality. There's no free will. We're all fundamentally innocent, like perfect angels. Even the worst criminal is a perfect angel on the truest, most fundamental nature of reality. Reality, the deepest.
Right. So I was going to ask you, so all right, so given the radical nature of this insight, and I want to make sure that I'm saying this right, what do you foresee as potential changes or resistance from those who are deeply rooted in the belief of free will?
Well, the resistance is going to be every successful person with money who's in a company saying, "Of course, there's free will. I earned this 5-star lifestyle hotel lifestyle, and we're going to raise our hand and say we know there's no free will. Don't you think there should be some sort of system where the income inequality goes away, or at least as much, like closer, where no one's making that much more than anyone? Because if it's all luck and all fate, it's so unfair that most people, the people who believe in free will are all going to say, well, I don't want to lose you're robbing me of my personal accomplishments by saying you're saying there's no me, that I didn't do anything. I went to Harvard, I went to Yale Law School, I started a company, I'm a dentist, I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, I'm very sick. And how dare you try to take that away from me? And when they say, wait a second, you were lucky to be that smart, you were lucky to have parents who pushed you, you were lucky, that you were able to be hardworking. It's not my fault I'm not hardworking. I just don't have it, and they're going to fight you every second of every day. That, of course, there's free will, and you're being lazy, and that's why you don't deserve anything.
Hmm.
There's going to be, and also the resistance is, I agree that this coming out is a little stressful, because to understand that you're not in control of your own life, I do understand the other side, that it's very stressful to think that. But on the other hand, you don't have to, the positives, first of all, it's the truth. So the positive of the truth, we should be a society that, like Henry Thoreau said, rather than love, money, and fame, give me truth. So
Mm.
if even if I'm kind of screwing up society a little bit, we need to deal with reality on the truth, and then
Mm.
we'll deal with it. And then maybe future generations can figure out what's the. I'm just trying to. I'm not trying to actually win the argument right now. I'm just trying to bring awareness that this
Right.
debate needs to happen in public, and then
Mm.
we can decide. But I think the people who have money are going to have to be taxed a hell of a lot more to give to the people who don't have the money. I'm talking about 80% taxes to make it an even, you can still have the good jobs and have the status, but you're going to be taxed a lot more to give to the poor people, because there's no free will. And not only that, like I said to you before, a universal basic income where everybody gets a check every month based on how old you are. So as you get older, because like I said, it's kind of depressing to know there's no free will. You might want to commit suicide, say, oh, but no, if you're going to get more
Don't
money
do
every year,
that.
no, if you're going to get more money every year for just staying alive, then society will acknowledge there's no free will. We're going to just, as you get older, when I go out to dinner and stuff, I sometimes feel badly for a waiter or a waitress, not by race or religion. I feel bad for depending on what their age is. So if I have an older guy being in a low position in life, or an older woman, I kind of feel bad for them. I think it should be more based on age. So the younger you are, I think you should be filling in your role for society, and then as you get older, you'll get the universal basic income will be raised every year, and then you won't have to work a demeaning job. I think it should
Mm.
be based on age. That's just me. You're going to
I
say
got
I'm crazy, but whatever.
no. Actually, I mean, that's fine by me. I understand. I totally don't
So
like
that way, you're motivated without free will. You're motivated to keep living. You're going to get more money, because we're going
right.
to honor and respect the fact that just living you should be rewarded. So
Mm.
anyway, you didn't ask me why I called it the Celestine Prophecy. That's what I wanted to get into. But
Well, yeah, definitely. Tell me about, because that was pretty much my next question.
your
Go
next question.
ahead.
So I don't know how
Yeah.
old you are, but in 1993, a book came out called the Celestine Prophecy.
Okay.
It was a book that was um, my book is self-published, but the Celestine Prophecy was the number one best-selling self-published book, like, of all time. And then many years later, I think 50 Shades of Grey knocked it off. But it was like this huge, wildly successful book, and it said that there was going to be an emerging cultural, spiritual It was a prophecy, okay? And it said there was going to be a huge spiritual awakening coming soon, but it never
Right.
said what it was. And
Right.
then And
No, no,
do
let
you
me
know the
hold
books?
on.
Do you
Let me
know the book?
ask you the question because I want to make sure that you know the question too. Because I had this written down and it says, looking forward, what is your vision for humanity? If the insights from the Celestine Prophecy are widely embraced, how do you see this affecting global issues like
Mhm.
conflict, inequality, and environmental
Good.
challenges?
So when this, like I said, when this finally gets out, we will never really have wars again. We're just going to have to talk it out and say, what's the cause? What's
Right.
your domino? Why do you feel? I mean, it's so much easier to bomb somebody than to ask them what is the problem? How were you raised? What's the cause? What's your causality? What's your nature? What's your nurture? Then we're going to have to discuss like what's fair and just talk it out. But the thing that's really going to affect us, like I keep saying, is that this is going to promote a universal basic income by age.
Mm-hmm.
Because, by the way, yeah, we're about 50 years to 100 years ahead of ourselves. This is not happening in our lifetime. There's too much free will religion out there against me. It's not. So the first thing that needs to happen is some politician or some celebrity is going to have to mention this, like at an award show or something. Like Brad Pitt gets up there or Leonardo DiCaprio. Somebody says, I want to thank the committee for this award, but I don't. There's an issue because they always say issues. They always say like transgender and the environment. They always throw. No one ever says, "I want to know why we're not discussing why free will." We can discuss if free will is an illusion or not. I feel very lucky to accept this award, but I didn't do anything. It was all luck. They do that with God, but they don't.
Mm-hmm.
They say it's all God. But they never say I want the society. I want everyone to know there's no free will. I just did cause and effect, and I got very lucky, and I didn't really do anything, and it's just luck. So we need a celebrity or a politician to bring it up. So if we're at a debate, say for governor or mayor or even president, a reporter can just raise their hand and say, Mr. Trump, Miss Kamala Harris, is there free will? I don't know if I'm allowed to curse. 4 fucking words. Is there free will? I don't want to curse. 4 freaking words to change society. Of course, Trump will laugh you out and say, of course, but at least it'll be out there. We need a progressive reporter to say, Mr. Trump, and whoever the next candidate is, it was probably be J.D. Vance. But let's go back one election. Say it was Trump and Harris, and someone said, "Do you guys?" I'm just curious. So there's an underground movement, a grassroots movement. There's a lot of science and biology going and physics saying there's no free will. Is there free will? What can you? Of course, they're both going to say there is, but at least it's out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, in what ways do you see your insights aligning with or contradicting a current scientific understanding and consciousness of human behavior?
I don't see it contradicting any. Or everybody who studies science and physics and biology knows there's no free will. It's the religions. It's religious stuff that says, well, God gave free will. God made uh, Adam and Eve, and then in the Garden of Eden, and the story that they used their free will to eat the apple, and they disobeyed God. And in order to truly, that's one story. And then in order to truly love God, you have to be free to do so, because after all, what kind of love would be if you're forced to love God? So you have to have free will to love God because He wants you to come to Him willingly and freely, not because you're being forced. And then of course the universe. Obviously, there must have been some kind of free will because there was nothing before that. That may or may not be true, but that has nothing to do with a human life. How the universe was created has nothing to do with how humans live 100 years on Earth in a cause and effect way. So they bring up what you're saying is the thing that's pro free will is really religion. I don't know really anyone in science who can get away with saying there's free will. It's just anybody who studies it knows that there isn't.
Mm-hmm.
They've even studied the brain and see you make a decision before you're consciously aware of it. Benjamin
Yeah.
Libet, Libet, put things on people's heads and said, make a decision and tell me when. And they saw on a FMDR machine or something, they could see your brain activity, that you made the decision like a second before you were aware of it. But I
Mm.
mean, that's all. It's such common sense and logic. There's no free will.
Right.
Why would anybody be depressed if there was free will? You would just
Yeah.
truly freely choose happy thoughts. It's got to be more logic than science. Even
Yeah.
I'm probably confusing you. I'm all over the place. Sorry about that. I get.
Okay, so is this like, okay, so question. It's just, maybe it's a stupid question. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But can this be kind of intertwined with quantum physics?
Okay, so quantum physics is what they call indeterminism. Now, I
Okay.
want to tell you that there's either determinism, which is cause and effect, or indeterminism, which is randomness, which is in quantum physics supposedly, or some combination of both. But if everything is determined, there's no free will. If everything is indeterminate, meaning random, like in quantum physics and quantum mechanics, there's no free will. And if there's some combination of both, there's no free will. And I just want the world to know that there's a guy named Brian Greene who's a physicist, and he said that quantum physics does not prove anything other than probabilities, and probabilities arise from underlying causality. So,
Okay.
like, you might think something's random, but it's not. Like,
Mm-hmm.
for example, if you play craps at a table in the casino, you think, okay, you're getting 1 and 1, and those are all like the sweat on your hand, the paint on the dots, the air, the humidity, the angle you throw it. There's a cause, like a lot of calculations and a lot of mathematics involved to why it becomes a 5 or a 6. It's not just random. It's a huge mathematical, how it bounces, how bouncy the bounces. There's just too many numbers to calculate. But
Mm-hmm.
it isn't random. It's still, so I don't believe in like quantum physics or indeterminism. I believe that quantum mechanics has underlying causality causing the probabilities to be what they are. It's
I got
nothing random, but even if it were purely random, that's not free will either.
you. That's true.
If you woke up tomorrow and randomly decided to take the bus instead of drive, how can you say that Yaya is using her free will to take the bus tomorrow when your neurotransmitters on a quantum level just randomly chose your behavior for you and made I was getting a call that okay, I got rid of it.
Okay. That's
Does
okay.
that make sense to you?
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's like, can you hear me?
Yeah, a lot of people use quantum physics to salvage free will. You make a very good point. They say everything's not cause and effect. They use so quantum mechanics is random. That doesn't help them. In fact, it hurts them.
Right.
It's a terrible argument. It's a very
Yeah.
bad argument.
Well, that's why I wanted to know, because a lot of people would throw quantum physics in there, and a lot of people would throw causality in there, and cause and effect, and all of this, and what else is there? There's all kinds of different things. You're thinking you are, and there's all kinds of different things. But there is, to me, only certain things that you can choose, and those outcomes are already pretty much predetermined. Like you said, if you decide not to brush your teeth, then your predetermination is your teeth are gonna rot.
Right.
You gonna have a funky breath. Ain't nobody gonna be around you. Okay, just stay home.
Well, a lot of people
You
tell me,
know,
well, there's no free will. Why? A lot of people say if there's no free will, why do you, by the way, my face is frozen here for some reason. I don't know.
I
Uh,
got you.
They say, why? Okay, so if you're going to cross the street and it's all predetermined, why bother to look both ways? And I'm like, because we have no choice but to seek pleasure and avoid pain. And I have an uncontrollable desire to not want to get hit by a car. So why bother? Bothering comes about causally, like everything else. I'm bothering to look both ways because I have an uncontrollable desire to seek pleasure and avoid pain. And that uncontrollable desire is to not get hit by a car. So I'm going to look both ways. I'm going to bother to do that. I am going to bother to shave and shower and and try to go to work because I'm bothering because I want a better outcome. It doesn't make
That's
any
right.
sense when people say, "Well, you don't believe in free will. Why do you look both ways before you cross? You're either going to get hit by the car or not." That causality is in there because it trumps. I don't want. It's part of your causality to look both ways because you have no choice but to seek a better outcome for yourself. That's
Right.
why.
Yeah, definitely. I do
I don't know
have
why this is so confusing to people. I really don't.
and I think because of the indoctrination of a lot of different things, people
You're
don't
absolutely right.
realize that there is a cause and effect to every decision, and you don't need to reinvent the wheel. It's already done. It's already
When you
done.
say indoctrination, you're implying religion. They brainwash you, they propaganda you. Every world religion, every major world religion believes in free will. It's like the foundation of everything in the Western culture. And it's just propaganda and brainwashing. And also they use the card, the God card. Well, God gave you free will. And they act like it's an unchallengeable assumption. And it is challengeable and it is an assumption. It's wrong. And we need to all come together as a species and understand we don't have free will. And let's figure out what to do about it. Because I myself don't know. like I said at the beginning of the show, I'm really not trying to win this argument with you. I'm trying to bring awareness
Yeah,
to the
definitely.
topic.
Definitely. So, what message would you like to convey to the readers or the listeners today about their maybe their skepticism and the implications of
Okay.
no free will inside? How can they begin to explore their ideas in their lives on their own?
Any political debate, if it's like a town hall, they need to ask the question. We need to get it somehow out in the open. It's been in, it's, these transgender issues and suicide and even pornography on the internet all the time. And I saw an erectile dysfunction all these other previously taboo subjects are coming out in the open. But this one, I mean, we need, like I said, it just never gets out of, it's on the internet all over the place. You can go on
Mhm.
Google and YouTube, put in this free will and illusion. It's all over the place. We need a celebrity. We need we need, I mean, I'm just a person, by the way. I'm not a philosophy student. I'm just a regular person, which gives me an advantage in this because I can see clearly and I'm not biased about anything. But we need somebody to get on CNN or some channel and have a debate with the cleric and the rabbi and the Muslim guy and the politician and Deepak Chopra and you and me and regular and just debate it. But like I said, they don't want to because people in high salaries don't want to debate this because they don't want to lose their money because once they start to realize there's no free will, we're going to come after them and say, why are you making so much more than everybody? You didn't do anything. You just got lucky. So that's what
Yeah,
we're up against.
I got you. I
What was your question? I don't even remember what you said.
got you. So the
If I
question
had a
was,
free will,
yeah. So, what message would you like to convey to the readers who may be skeptical about the implications of no free will in sight, and how can they begin to explore this in their lives with their own ideas?
so if I had a free will, I wouldn't have interrupted you so much, by the way. To keep it, the number one thing is to keep an open mind. There are two sides to every story. It's time for the no free will side to come about. And my advice would be to keep a detailed journal of your day. Be very aware of what it's like for you to be you. Notice when you go to the bathroom, when you need to think about it, like you just did it automatically. Notice when you just started eating, when you didn't have to make a decision. Just keep a very detailed journal of cause and effect in your life. Become very aware of what you're doing and why you're doing it. And you'll see that you're just a robot and you're not in control of what you're saying or doing. And it's just a surreal thing. You'll surprise yourself. Like, oh, I didn't even know I was going to do that. Like it's very surreal. It's like, just keep an open mind and keep a journal and just keep your awareness up.
Hmm.
And also be mindful that other people also don't have a free will. So
Right.
what's their background? What's their who taught them what are their mother tongue? Why are they the way they are? They are who they are because of who they are, and they didn't freely choose who they were, and that includes their soul and spirit.
Mm. Some
So
people say that we're living
don't just give me the material argument because you're going to
right.
say, well, we know there's no free will in your physical body, but you have a soul and spirit. You didn't get to freely choose. That doesn't rescue free will. Saying there's a soul and spirit.
Hmm. Some people say that we're living in the matrix. What do you think?
Well, I never saw the movie, but I read this thing that some guy named some philosopher, I think Nick Bostrom or something, says we're living in a simulation
Right.
or matrix. And if there's no free will, that means we're robots. And I mean, I know reality's real and it's not fake, but it does sometimes feel like we're in a simulation or something. Like when I look on the street right now, I have a window. I'm like looking at all these robots and people thinking they have free will. I think it's kind of funny, but in a way, it could be I know it's like the Matrix was like a computer game or something inside the world. I don't know. I never
Right.
saw that. Was that what it was?
Something like
I mean,
that. It was like they were living inside of their bodies, inside of like a
I
shell.
think I think reality is real and free will's an illusion, but I could see why people could say this is all just a big simulation because we're all just robots, puppets. I like to use the word robots better, but we're all just without free will. It makes me think it could be a simulation. It's not that crazy. I mean, it sounds crazy, but it's not when you think about it. Right now, it's one puppet talking to another and one robot talking to another. So
Yeah, I hear you. Wow. Wow.
now
Well,
you
thank
may
you so
ask what
much.
you may be asking what's controlling the strings. What the puppet is controlled by seek pleasure, avoid pain. That's the operating system. That's the
Mm.
program we're running. Seek pleasure and avoid pain. So even if you are seeking overall more and more overall life satisfaction, like because sometimes you do self-loathing, but that's because you're trying to punish yourself so you can get more satisfaction in the future. So you
Hmm.
don't always see, you seek pleasure and avoid pain in the long run, but in the short term, you might have to have uncontrollable bad emotions because you're trying to, you know, condition yourself for the future where you don't make that same mistake.
Wow. There's just so much here. There's so much that we could say, so much more. I want to thank you so much, Nick, for being on the show. I appreciate it.
All
You know,
right.
the book that we're talking about is written by Nick Vale, right? I was getting ready to say
Right.
Valier
Veil,
again,
veil,
you know,
yeah.
because it just sounds so good. Nick Valier just sounds so good. But Nick Vale, sorry,
Veil, yeah.
Nick Vale, and
Well,
his book.
In Spanish speaking countries, they call me Mr. Bale because the V is pronounced
Ah,
with a
yeah.
B.
Yeah, that's
But
right.
it's
That's
Veil.
right.
It's Veil.
Yeah.
It's Veil.
Vale, Nick Vale. And his book is called The Celestine Prophecy Fulfilled. I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. If the QR code is on there, but also his Instagram is free underscore will underscore is underscore and underscore illusion. So free will is an illusion. Go ahead and follow him on Instagram as well as go check out that book. The QR code is on the screen and you can go ahead and go and check it out there as well. I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. Don't forget to dare to be different and please, please live your lives. Don't just throw it all away because
Mhm.
there is some satisfaction in living the repercussions of your decisions. I should say that. Is
Cause
that
and
good?
effect in a positive way. Cause and
There you
effect in a
go.
positive.
In a positive way. All right, guys. Until next time, don't forget to dare to be different. Bye.
Bye bye.